Goal of the program is to decrease the number of vacant units across the city and increase the housing supply. And as I mentioned, the net revenue generated from this vacant unit tax will be reinvested into the city programs to strengthen housing initiatives. And we'll get more into that. As far as timelines go, the original program was intended to be launched this month, but due to the Canada Post labor dispute, the notice to declare letters that were to be mailed out in middle of December did not actually happen. So we went back to council and we requested that we amend the timelines in order to allow for the letters to go out. So with that in mind, you're seeing here on the screen, in early February, the notice of declaration letters will be mailed out to the property owners. On February the 10th is when the portal will open for the declaration period for each property owner. That will conclude on April the 30th. And then the first week of June for those properties that are deemed to be vacant or have declared that they are vacant, the vacant unit tax charge will be included on the final property tax bill. July 2nd is when the dispute resolution process will commence for those that are obviously disputing the charge at that point. Okay, so who needs to declare? All property owners that are classified under the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation as residential, and that's defined as containing 6 units or less and have the property code that is eligible as defined in the program framework are required to declare. Some of these residential units, as an example, are single-family detached, semi-detached, row housing, residential condominium units, a duplex, triplex, and the such. All other property types that do not meet the residential property class and code are not subject to the program. Should a resident not receive a notice to declare a letter and expects to be required to declare, they can call or email the vacant unit tax team to confirm. And again, those details will be shared at the tail end of the tail end of the presentation. The declarations, as far as commitment, will take no more than 5 minutes. And there are different ways to offer that the declaration can be done. One of the ways is through online, where we have a dedicated portal, in person or over the phone. One thing to keep in mind is that we expect 99% of the property owners to not be charged the vacant unit tax. We expect 1% to declare. And that's an important sort of context here. And these are numbers that we are based on some of the other municipalities that have the vacant unit tax in place. Now, specifically how the vacant unit tax works is that properties are deemed vacant and if they are more than 183 days. And therefore they will be subject to the vacant unit tax. Now, there are properties that can be exempted. Specifically, if it's your principal residence, you're exempted. A death of an owner, same situation. Major renovations, sale of the property. If the principal resident is in care, institutionalized or hospitalized, if there's a court order, or if it's a nonprofit housing. Again, these are some of the ones that have been identified in the program framework. About the reinvestment of the revenue. So the net revenues that come out of the vacant unit tax will be reinvested back into the city, specifically the city housing programs and affordable housing initiatives. Some of the initiatives include supporting the development of more rental units and assisting low-income renters. The city will also be providing a detailed annual report on the vacant unit tax program to council and the public in 2026. This report will contain vacancy data and information across the city, the net revenue generated, and what housing programs and affordable housing initiatives have been invested in. All of this will be obviously subject to council decision and eventual approval. I'm going to pass it over now to Andrew to take over onto the next slide.
I'm gonna have to raise it right up.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. So as Clayton mentioned earlier, kind of the main benefit and goal of this program is to really increase the housing supply and reduce the vacancy rate across the city. Now the VUT will really only be considered successful if the revenue will not be considered successful if the revenue is collected, but the number of vacant homes do not decrease. So similar to other municipalities across Canada, all net revenue will be reinvested into city housing programs and affordable housing initiatives. So based on what Clayton said earlier, we estimate approximately 1,700 or 1% of homes will be subject to the VUT, and that's based on Canada Census data. So we estimate that'll generate approximately 6.7 of gross revenue based on the average residential property assessed value of $381,000. So the city of Hamilton has a number of housing programs and affordable housing initiatives across the city. A few of the City Housing Hamilton development projects here in Ward 4 are the 40-unit building in 55 Queen Street Road, the 42-unit in 1620 Main Street East, and the 103-unit building at 8 Roxanne Drive. So while there's going to be many benefits to this program that were shared on the previous slide, there are some potential considerations of the program. So it is vital to the success of the program that the public is made aware and understand the mandatory annual declaration process. All residential owners must submit the mandatory annual declaration form. Again, as Clayton mentioned, the declaration form should take no more than 5 minutes, and we have many different avenues and ways you can submit the declaration. That could be on a smart device, that could be on a computer either at home, at a municipal service center, or also over the phone. Should a property owner be charged the VUT and dispute the tax, they have the option to submit a notice of complaint or appeal. Some of the reasons why you may submit that is the city made an error of admission or the owner made an error of admission when completing the mandatory declaration form. Now, the notice of complaint and appeal process will begin on July 2nd. And if the complaint or appeal is successful, the VUT, including any penalties and interest, will be removed from your property tax bill. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the City of Hamilton is following many municipalities across Canada, introducing a VUT to address the affordable housing crisis in our community. So Vancouver implemented their empty house tax in 2017. Since the launch of that tax, Vancouver has generated more than $142 million of net revenue that has been reinvested into affordable housing initiatives. And the number of vacant properties has also decreased by 54% of data collected by the city under the program. Ottawa and Toronto have implemented their vacant unit tax in 2023, and Ottawa generated approximately $12.6 million of revenue in their first year of the program, with $10.3 million being reinvested into capital construction of new affordable and supportive housing projects. Now, Toronto has generated approximately $56 million in their first year and $50 million in the second year of their program. Now, Windsor and Sault Ste. Marie have actually just recently approved their programs in 2024 with a rollout in early 2025, similar to Hamilton. So if you'd like more information on the program or want to know where to submit the mandatory annual declaration, you can visit www.hamilton.ca townhall.ca/vacant unit tax. And if you need any assistance with your declaration or have any questions that maybe we didn't answer today or isn't on our website, you can contact the vacant unit tax team. And our email address is there too. So it's vacantunit@hamilton.ca or by phone at 905-546-2573. And at this time, we thank you all for the opportunity to present and talk about the new vacant tax program. We hope the presentation was helpful and informative. We're very happy to take any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
In 2018, City of Hamilton, 200+ properties. How many of those properties?
Do we want to try to repeat the question? That's not these two dollars, right?
In 2018, City of Hamilton has 200+ properties. How many of those properties repurposed for homes
So in 2018, we own 200
plus?
plus properties, and how many of those have been repurposed for affordable housing?
It's not something that we readily have information available at this point. Just at the site, it's not something that I'm necessarily aware of, but I can certainly take the information there. Gather that information. I think it's a very good question to ask, and we'd be happy to take your details out and provide you the answer.
I'll ask John to know when we'll make sure that you get connected to Yes, sir.
Could you describe a unit that would be big as you have? Like, why would there be a vacant unit? Just follow.
Yeah, there's multiple reasons. One could be it's a rental property, and it's been vacant and it hasn't been rented for more than 183 days. Or you
often. I'm surprised that it generates so much revenue. When I would think a person who owns a property and wants to rent it. And if they can't rent it, there's got to be a legitimate reason, renovation, death in the family, whatever that is. I'm kind of amazed that we would generate that kind of money for units that I think people want to rent.
Yeah. So one of the things that I see quite often, I'm in corporate commercial real estate at a law firm. I work as a law clerk. One thing that I see a lot of is developers will buy a building or developers will buy a piece of land, a house on it, but they don't want to get into renting it even short term. But they're not ready to build on it. They're not ready to do anything with it. There's all sorts of things that get involved. That's one of the reasons that I see quite a bit of. So quite often I'll be doing a deal where I got to make sure the developer calls it vacant land, but it's not really. There's a house on it, but they don't think of it that way. So that's
Sort of like the Metrolinx property.
exactly, yeah. So that's a big thing right there.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just amazed at that number, those millions of dollars that we generated. Thank you.
He's moved that. And it's six, so I don't know what plays there, but it's left it. Yes, other company was. And completely under. And that's what, and again, it was sold, and I, saying she could be renting it, so if you make money off it, so like it just sit lasting.
But then again, paying property taxes, but not using any of the property, not using any of the resources. Garbage collection,
Being a landlord is a big job.
yeah.
So just to explain some terms, you're sending out these forms that people have to sign, compare whether the property vacant or they own the vacant property. Like with that,
Yeah, so every property, the owner is required to make a declaration if the property is vacant or not.
so if they don't respond back to you, and you know, you can probably where do you go from there? That's the tax property is vacant. It's the additional tax. How do you determine that?
So it's gonna be 1% of the current assessed value. And that assessed value is provided by MPAC.
That's a year.
Yes. So go ahead, go.
Sorry.
No, go.
You can appreciate the sticker shock one would get.
And but how do you prove that they actually got that information? Say, I think it's.
So we have a process in place to ensure we reach out to them multiple times. Again, the launch of this program this year itself, there's going to be some sort of natural challenges. And there's also going to be some newness to the program where there's going to be individuals who just have not, maybe don't check in the last week because
You have, I mean, you think if you come with the truth.
so we are going to, as mentioned, we're going to be doing an audit. So these audits are started on July 2nd. What that we need to do is we'll work with the other departments in the city where there is information about properties, whether it be to bylaw or to other some licensing, and we work with them to try and gather information with property.
Pascal, what's the, I mean, so there is. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Did we answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Going on, didn't realize Pascal was gonna add in with additional information. No, Pascal wants to ask a question, so we're gonna ask Pascal first, then we'll go to Julie, and then we'll go to you.
All right, it's a question from online. First, if you could first repeat the question, if they can't hear it online, then the question out in the front. How will the start of the program be communicated? The site says January 2025, but there's no date. Will there be mailers?
So if I heard correctly, when will the program be launched? I heard that it is January of 2025. Okay. So as mentioned in the presentation, the program officially launches on February the 10th, which is the first day declarations can be made. And it will conclude on April 30th. And after that time, there's a little bit of a validation period before we look to add the properties that are vacant. The vacant unit tax charge based on Andrew's summary of the 1% of the current property assessed value will be an additional charge that shows up on the final tax bill. That will be the June.
Do you want me to pass around the mic for the easier?
When we go to the management council, and if you're not registered, and you must be living at that house, then that is printed on the form. Okay, so, I can see people in the city, they've owned their property 50 years, and the forms, they wouldn't have had to change anything. I presume you people in the tax department know who lives at the house. When you have, municipal elections, you're on the voters list or municipal, provincial, or federal elections, okay? You know who lives there, okay? So I'm a little lost to understand. I know there were over the house up the street, it's rented, but the gentleman that owns the house has owns 25 houses. And they're not all in Hamilton. So I presume the bills all go to his house, okay, for payment. And, you know, like, you wanna know where the house is, I can tell you. But, yeah, it's just a little beyond me what you're doing. You know, some, they have to file income tax every year. I had a business. I own a house, and now it's going up, it'll be going up for sale. Because the people that rented it out to people. One guy's dead, and the other guy's like, it's gonna be big. But, yeah, it's, I just don't know why.
Can I comment on your?
Yeah.
So as a law clerk,
Yes,
you would know that people lie all the time on those forms. I had once where the guy said, yep, we're not renting it out. My son's gonna be living there.
oh, yeah,
So I'm gonna own it. My son's gonna be living there. So, yeah, we're not renting it out. Wouldn't you know it, what I discovered, he was renting it out. So yeah, people do these declarations,
yeah, I know.
but they lie.
I know.
They lie
Hey,
all the time.
I took a discount on that house I sold of 30,000. The lady, she's from Etobicoke. And, they discounted, oh, we wanted a stair replaced. Had to reduce it by 5,000. It was never replaced. I still see, my neighbors, I still visit the area, so I know what's going on. I knew you really agree, yes. I think that's why we're trying to do this is. And getting those vacant units, one of them incentivize people to try to doing something and allow this to be okay. But ultimately, this is what council wanted to try, and this is why we have some really great sacraments to this. We just touched on. We know that lives are out there and brand. Like is like literally heartbreaking when you have an outside such for 20 years, and that could easily be in a affordable family home. So I'm gonna go and I'll take that question away from you. Like, but let's go to this young lady, followed by that gentleman, and then back to here. So we have
I'm just thinking what means the situation of, you know, say a landlord. Nervous if there are things in the paper where they have these renters that will not leave and they totally wreck the unit. And this is what's going on. What part of this will there be some, you know, protections in place for the person who does own and would like to rent out? Because really, why would you want, like, you've got a beautiful, say, sub basement, you're in a basement, and you've done it all nice and it's beautiful, but aren't you scared to rent it to somebody? And that's why the rental is a lot. So what kind of protections, what is the city gonna do to help that never happens again? Like the poor lady that was living in her car and she had her house ruined by the people who would not leave even though they were ordered to leave. So is there gonna be any protection for people that want to, you know, help the rental situation, the rental market?
Excellent question. I think that there are two separate.
While we hear on these ones, constantly lots going for that. I would use the because they didn't have that instant. The purchase. It's just possible. So what essentially happens is you're right now. So while we're running stories in waste, there are also agencies that have to settle to ensure that. Able to do the trials and take the necessary care when it comes to finding money that for their house. And that is obviously working like this. It's got nothing to do with the city. It's a separate act that is set by the province to protect both the landlord and the tenants. Firstly, to your point, there's also there are rights in place for tenants, more so than for landlords, because there have always been instances where tenants are at a disadvantage and the landlords are taking advantage of that situation. So again, there are policies in place just for that mechanism. And I must say that it is working. It's just that what you're seeing in the media and the news is the ones that aren't working, and that becomes more pronounced.
So,
I understood you correctly, you indicated that at some point in time, there'd be an audit process and a way of checking people that have either lied or have inadvertently made a mistake. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So why go through this whole process now? You obviously have means to check out which places are vacant. Why this whole bureaucracy and this spinning? If you know or can ascertain which houses you want to check out, why go through this?
Because it involves dealing with all resident. Sorry, what? So it's a two-way process. So in order to validate that house is being well as solutions. So it's on this even have approximately for us to be charged with the investment. We be charged if it's being. What are you looking from the audit is then select information and then deal with that resident to prove that they are the property is vacant or not.
But aren't you by doing this process whereby you're putting the onus on people, many of which in this city don't speak English that well, don't understand it, putting a negative onus that if they do not send it back or make a mistake, they're going to get dinged and you guys get the money.
So again, excellent questions. So yeah, we have to reflect on some of the successes of the municipalities that have had this. And if Hamilton is of concern, imagine what it was in Vancouver, Toronto, and Ottawa. That I've had many successes in regards to the communication news. And this is not going to be necessarily a challenge. It is also going to be an education. Again, the reason over here is that we are trying to educate. I've been trying to do this more and more so the case for the very reason that this is a new program and that we are here to help them declare correctly.
so thank you, sir. I'll get to. I'm just saying, how you plan to vote your funds together? And then I first practice. With this program launching, I'm going to on different things. You then fix the all the manpower and involved in launching this program. Outweigh the actual benefits of it. Because obviously the cost of the manpower launching the program and everything that's involved with it, there's going to be a great cost for that. Is the actual return on investment going to be a value to people management?
Excellent question. I'm going to repeat that just for the benefit of everybody. So the question, and please correct me if I'm incorrect, when I'm summarizing here. So the question is that does the cost of the program outweigh the benefits in relation to the initiatives that council like? So to answer that question, again, we can only lean on what other, when Vancouver went through this exercise in year one, it was essentially, basing it on information that they have available. So there's no way of knowing for sure. Andrew here mentioned in the presentation, we estimate about 1,765 units. But whether that is accurate or not, that's up for debate. But what we can demonstrate again, leading to what Andrew presented, was the gross revenues that were earned in each of these various municipalities. Very conservative approach on what we estimate to be. At a minimum, we are expecting to break even for this, but based on some of the results out there, we expect that this program will change positively to the better. Take to move the emphasis really yes, because one of the together.
So when we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about affordable housing developments, but the city housing in Hamilton, helping some of the nonprofits. Some of that affordable housing is at below market type place, and a lot of nonprofit organizations like the Kiwanis Group, like Inwell, they're doing affordable housing. So when we talk about this, there's the greater umbrella of this is that there's a housing sustainable investment roadmap. That is why it has an efficient council. It is a full-on strategy that looks at everything from shelter supports all the way to market housing. And it's hitting at all of these different bases and all of these different interims. And what is the city contributing at every single phase of this investment roadmap? We have already, in terms of like winter response, in terms of housing and encampments, we are looking at increased shelter beds. That's like a very low end. This is where the garbage shipping, the outdoor shelters are coming in. Affordable housing, we have a housing secretariat, so we've actually set up an entire group of people to help work with in Kiwanis, YMCA, all of these affordable housing providers, by providing them with matching programs in order for them to unlock more money from the province and the feds to build affordable housing. And then they have their own sort of systems in place in order to build affordable housing. Then we get into market rate, and those are all the market, that's like the low standings, the Madden homes, all of that, helping them with streamlining all of the planning processes so they can get to building shovels in the ground, building market rate housing faster. So it's multiple steps along the way. So when we think about the vacant unit task, it is around one, getting vacant units actually housed. So we want to try and get as many vacant units with people, families, as quickly as possible. This program is meant to be cost recovery. The very first year, we expect that there will be revenues generated. Anything that is beyond cost recovery will go straight into affordable housing. So helping the Inwells, the Kiwanis, the YMCAs, get them to build housing as quickly as possible. This program, if successful, we will have less and less revenue as the years go on, because we will have less and less vacant units in the marketplace. That is the intention of this. It is not meant to, when we speak about also lower your taxes. I will get to that. I know that that's going to be a hot topic, so I will definitely get to that. This gentleman first.
How many people are employed? Separate department of the city now, or is this a whole generated?
I'm just going to repeat the question just for everyone's benefit. So the question was, how many?
I want to know.
on regular people that are regulating their houses and paying taxes.
Okay, so there are multiple parts, so I'm gonna try my best to capture everything. The first was how many staffs are in the vacant unit tax scheme. The second question was, is this a separate unit from the rest of the city? And the third question, sorry, I gotta,
How is this clear? Like, is this making our taxes go up again? Or like, and we just said, we're trying to decrease your tax. Because every time I look around, Hamilton City just seems to go, raise them.
so I'm gonna summarize that. How is this going to impact regular taxpayers? And whether it is going to be a negative or a positive impact? Vacant unit tax. Have I heard that all correctly?
Yeah,
Okay,
still, I want to know how many people are in the forest.
so I'll get to that right now. So to answer your first question, council approved 14 staff in total. And the primary amount, the number is for the volume of calls and for all the necessary steps that are taken for the audit to take place. So that's where the primary team is going to be focusing their energies on. And then after that, it's primarily the supervisory. Second question was on this is a separate entity altogether. And vacant unit tax is a new subunit of the revenue services group. The revenue services division is under corporate services, and revenue services includes taxation, utility billing, and the vacant unit tax. So it's tax.
Right?
Sorry.
That's actually going up.
I can tell you one thing from another, and to answer your last question, the vacant unit tax and the property taxes are two separate entities altogether. They don't correlate whatsoever. Property taxes is based on the budget that is put in front of council to make a decision. And again, I think Councilor Wang will speak to the specifics of the budget for 2025. But as mentioned in the presentation, this is a policy initiative and as a housing tool. The housing tool obviously has a domino effect to the city at large. So when we have homelessness, there's a domino effect that takes place that impacts the quality of the service for all residents. So as a policy initiative, the objective, as Councilor Wang definitely pointed out, it's a cost recovery. We are not taxing the residents in order to pay for the homelessness issue. We are using the vacant unit tax as a mechanism to tax vacant unit in order to fund the initiatives leading to homelessness.
So the paychecks that are paid is working people, they come out of the DBT,
That is correct.
or come here the city taxes at all,
No, it doesn't.
100%.
100%.
Your answer?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This
Good job.
gentleman is in the attachment.
I'm just wondering why does it apply to corporate land?
Or Anderson's, why doesn't it?
Because I would put some actual pressure on still rates.
Potential, if they're corporate, but when you're talking about the corporate, that's the view.
There's a
You're talking about business. You're talking about business. You're talking about corporate land in terms of corporate land, it's an apartment, a residential building, sorry, misunderstood. Yeah, she just misunderstood. She just. Okay, so let's get Director answers pressure.
rental rates to come down if they strip. But it doesn't apply to them. And how many thousands of empty rentals are there downtown?
Okay, so I'm going to try and capture some of what you said, and please correct me if I'm missing anything. So the first bit is you're wondering why this program is not extended to corporate landlords.
Right.
And the second question is will this bring the rents down?
No.
Okay. Sorry, was that the question you asked?
It doesn't apply to corporate landlords, correct?
Okay, so
Right.
no, the
So
first, it
that
does not
doesn't put
apply.
any downward pressure on the rental rates. Most people that need affordable housing where they start, right, not in houses. Yeah. So. Make that make sense.
So the corporate landlords, in my opinion, I'm assuming they are like the commercial industrial owners.
This is the high rises down.
Right, that's where-
I think there's a confusion in terms.
Yeah.
And they're all.
So again, it's not like for business purposes.
A landlord for an apartment building,
Okay,
they own the apartment building, they
Yes.
rent out the units.
all right.
That's still a residential. That's still residential.
Yeah, but it doesn't count.
Yeah,
They
it
don't-
does.
They don't.
Well, if you don't know, that's what you're trying to find out.
No,
Does that count?
So it's condo.
no.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question. So were you making reference to apartment buildings?
Yes.
Okay, so for apartment buildings, they do not have required to declare. That is correct. The reason why that's the case, because the purpose of an apartment building is for rental units.
Right.
And the whole idea, well, that's,
Five minutes.
yes,
You could be charging them that. Thinking to make them lower the rates to get it filled out.
while your point is accurate, at this point, it is focused on first,
Come up to the home.
right?
You go out there.
No, it's
So
not,
you have empty apartments that you use.
well, I think that's, okay.
And.
That's a really good point.
It's-
It's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Well, no, okay, so I'm not,
And there's way more than 17.
sure,
Never mind 17.
right,
So. I know I thought for 17 or dollar. We've hired almost for 80 million.
no, that's incorrect.
Well, based on 500,000.
No, but
1% would be 5,000 dollars a year.
yes,
I'm 17 year
yes.
is 8.5 million.
Well, I'm not suggesting the math over there is wrong, but it's not,
It's like a lot more than you get 8.
yeah, but it's not costing us 8.5 million. We're generating the revenue of 8.5 million, but it's not costing. Out of that 8.5 million, there's gonna be the cost recovery element. And then the balance, the delta, is what is then reinvested back into the housing initiatives. Yes,
So the bottom line is it does not apply to corporate payments. All these things you have.
well, because the apartment buildings are there for the purposes of renting out units. Now, all I can say, because again,
So it might. But it doesn't matter.
so
No, it's.
That's a good point. I think we'll take that back. Let us take that back. That's an excellent point. And I think Chantal, you caught that, right? Excellent. So you know what? We don't have an answer there. Let us take it back. Okay. All right. Thank you. Natasha, please.
And I just sort of wanted to comment on why we have to do this paperwork and bureaucracy. We have to be in compliance, the city has to be in compliance with the provincial municipal housing act and the income tax act. And I haven't read those acts thoroughly, but I'm sure there's something in there that says that you've got to acquire a declaration in order to proceed with something like this or something that would direct the legal end of this. Unfortunately, you have to pay for a lot of stuff. It is what it is. That's how it goes. And I've never run into an apartment building. It's such a weird business model than an apartment building. And I would get so if I'm selling an apartment building, I get copies of all the leases. And I've never seen a vacant one ever. And then you get a rent roll. It would be such a weird business model because that is the sole business model to generate income per unit. It would be a bizarre, I don't know who's running that apartment building. Well, I'm not saying I don't believe you. I just think who's running that apartment building? Like, it's bizarre. I've never seen that. Every unit of an apartment building that I ever have sold on behalf of a client, I get the rent roll. There's never a vacant unit unless somebody just left for, but it's never like 183 days. It's just, it would be bizarre. That's how you make your money.
Managers get fired for not renting them out.
So,
It's how you make rent.
That's
I've just never seen it.
Demand is down, people are not wanting to stay downtown. Because there's some,
Well,
a lot of
I've just-
exceptions that are there.
Yeah,
So
I've just
people-
never seen it.
But they're not renting.
Well, a lot of these renters it'll go from the beginning, like
Thank you for the discussion. Excellent points. I think that the RevGen team has absolutely heard these points. Thank you so much for asking these questions because they are absolutely important. And just a quick note before I give the last word to Erin, I know, sir, that you had raised your hand, but I just wanted to have like new people. Sorry, Julie, hold on a sec. So
We're going to the translation service because the people that lived across from my house, they're Chinese and they're constantly coming and going. So we have city has many nationalities.
absolutely.
So you're going to get to translated the language that people have.
Thank you, Julie. Awesome. Final point before I go to Erin for the last thing aside. There is also challenges with sharing information from the province and the feds. So in terms of province having your information because you're on the electors list and all that stuff, that doesn't necessarily translate into what the city can potentially use. So there is a disconnect between all levels of government in terms of how we share your information with each other. So there is that as a bit of a hiccup as well. Erin, last word. Yes. Short answer. Right.
Yes, it will.
So February 10th is when the portal opens. February 10th, there is a portal that opens, so you can do it via the mail-in, the online portal, you can call. You can also message us at the Ward 4 office, we can connect you directly. So there are a variety of ways, correct? Okay, all right. Thank you, and let's get a round of applause for our city staff. And team, I don't know if you want to hang out at the back just in case other people have questions, they can come and chat with you, but I need to continue moving on, so thank you so much. All right, we are gonna keep on going. In terms of the Ward 4 update, there's a lot going on. And Engage Hamilton is actually doing a public art master plan. We're looking for feedback. And part of that public art, fun thing is that a bunch of it is going on the pipeline trail. We're super excited. It's gonna be functional art. So it'll be art, but you can sit on it. I'm super excited. So, but the survey link is at engage.hamilton.ca, so please check it out. Budget. Okay. This one, we have the wastewater budget, we have the operations budget.
I wanted to answer any questions that you guys have. So at this point, what we have been directed by the mayor's directive is to try and lower taxes as much as possible. And the way that they engaged the city staff to do that is to look at efficiencies, to try and limit the number of hires, to look at how we can actually cut services. And city staff originally came back with this budget book. And I brought it with me. So if you wanted to flip through it and actually look through it, started out with 6.9%. City staff have whittled it down to 5.7. I have actually been receiving emails asking me why I voted against the 3.44 motion. And here's where I really want to set the record straight. That motion, oh, Jack says I can't move. Okay, good. Okay, so that motion speaks about pegging an arbitrary number, 3.44%. What you have to understand is that city staff have been working on this budget for 2025 for the last 8 months. Imagine you're a city staffer and all of a sudden you have been asked to completely redo your work in order to come up with a completely different budget to try and hit 3.44%. And 3.44% was pegged to the consumer price index. It's an arbitrary number. The problem with the consumer price index is that for you and I, we base our home budgets on the cost of milk, the cost of eggs, cost of gas, cost of electricity. It is completely different to how the city government does our budget because we have to look at the cost of labor, cost of asphalt, the cost of steel in order to make this city run. They are completely apples to oranges. So when we speak about this, I was thinking from a staff perspective, the fact that they worked extra hard to get us down to 5.7, that was on them. But now it is on me as a city councillor to try and find additional efficiencies rather than making staff go back and redo 8 months of work. It is now my job to help with finding more efficiencies. Okay. Yes, sir.
Talk about efficiencies.
Yep. Yep.
Pretty serious.
Oh, yeah.
You're worried about the LPT, you're worried about being these things. Tell you where your inefficiencies. Don't tell you.
So-
5 guys in the truck to clean up. I said 5 guys when we need 2 get out of the truck. There's an inefficiency in the staff out the door.
So
There's so much you guys in the city don't understand why it's things. The second part, you're talking about taking 11.5 in the last 2 years. When Sam Murillo ran, we take 2.
Yep.
2% to 2.3. Are you telling me that everything has gone up that much? Because I work in the industries of steel and the other ones you were talking about.
So
There's no way it was up there.
I'm going to tell you, Sam and previous councils did an excellent job. They did an excellent job to get us at 2% per year.
So you're telling me
The-
that's okay for staff?
Problem with 2% was they had to cut a lot of stuff in order to make the shoe fit. This is why we have had 4 major water main breaks down in the north end, Knox Avenue, Mead Avenue, all of that stuff. Those pipes are 99 years old and have never been replaced. The challenge too is that those pipes are lead. When we think about how we want to serve future generations, we cannot continue to let infrastructure rot. That is a big challenge. I will tell you, Sam and previous councils, like I said, did an excellent job. The challenge is that when you cut and you cut and you cut, it comes due, and unfortunately, it comes due today. That's my problem. I literally inherited 4, 5, 8, and a massive homelessness issue that Ward 4 has never seen before. Yep.
What I'm saying is you're so concerned with LRT. Let's think
LRT hasn't started yet. LRT is being paid for by the province and by the feds. Agreed.
You still.
There's no price tag right now because it hasn't started. So this is also other orders of government. The province and the feds have paid, they are paying $3.4 billion in order to fund the LRT. We are already started on the RFP process. That train has literally left the station. I cannot pull it back. So unfortunately, what we are left with is trying to manage all of the challenges that we have today. Infrastructure that has been underinvested in. We have social housing and social challenges from massive underinvestment in all of those in order to get us here. I don't have an answer for you because I think that whatever answer I provide to you is likely not the one you want to hear. So I think that that's what it is. Natasha, please.
The projects is seriously underfunded in this. They are cutting away at healthcare and we need it so badly. That causes a lot of issues. The province is in charge of housing, affordable housing. They are not funding anything. The provinces have been downloading services and stuff that municipalities didn't have to pay for before. Now the provinces are downloading onto municipalities. Tammy had a really good budget or finance thing. I can't remember what it was. And the guy explained it all. This provincial government is starving municipalities. That is why it's falling on us as the municipal taxpayer to pay for a lot more stuff than we had to before. And it's now becoming so expensive. Everything's so expensive. So if you want to complain to somebody, you contact Doug Ford or vote for somebody else.
I'm down there.
He's not doing anything. He is starving. He is starving the municipalities.
Thank you, Natasha. I love that I love this. I love this. I love you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This gentleman first, followed by this gentleman. Yes, sir.
I think. I'll start getting newspaper. You got a 6.9%. I think you gotta be more than expert.
Okay.
Okay, I've operated margin corporations.
Yep.
And when I look at capital expenditures, you know, we have operating expense. Right?
Yep.
And then we have investment support for future projects.
Yep.
Right? So the whole idea is that if you sit down and say, you're telling me that we held the line on what was the increase in our expenditures for the people to bring the trust for the okay, I can accept that. But now we're gonna reach a capital line to do these other projects for previous years by 35%.
Yep.
Wow.
So,
No, let me finish.
okay.
Because I've dealt with corporations that have.
Yep.
And not been very frustrated about things.
Yep.
I'm talking from a person.
Yep.
Because they were a big step. All right, and I really like to get into the weeds about the way we bought the stuff, all the things for the homeless.
Yep. Oh.
Right down spiritually.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that could be a gross to the work.
Yep.
And what really irritates me is that they work Canadian made. You can't tell me people locally, you don't have people here to do it. We're coming to country, companies on this city and saying, where's your tax? 15, 20, 30, 40, $100,000 a year, times corporations are paid. Yeah, we don't go to them and say, you have a solution, can you build something for us at this price?
So, thank you.
With a company, so deal with another company,
Great stuff in it from China. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if we paid millions more than.
Thank you for that. Those are several questions. Very first one was, this budget process is not as transparent as it ought to be. I will tell you, this is my third budget. Every single budget process since I got into office has been different. The very first year that I got in, we were running the same budget process that previous councils had been doing, which was they run 3 days in before December, and they only talk about the rate budget. And then after January, it was like 3 months of departmental budget processes in order to look at the operational and capital budget. The second year, we started to condense them. So we tried to do them all at the same time. And with that came a lot of the challenges around like transparency and all of that stuff. This year, we are following the strong mayor powers. And this is exactly from what Doug Ford has instituted for strong mayor. So the way that this budget process is, I will tell you the very first year, my budget book was 3 times this. It was literally a stepping stool. And it was quite literally the scariest document I had ever seen in my entire life. The second year, it was double this. This year, it's only 1 inch thick. And the reason for that is because with strong mayor powers, the mayor gives a directive to staff and have staff work on this budget process. From that, they present that to the mayor, and then the mayor delivers that as the budget to all of council. Right now, we are in essentially the examination stage. She has already delivered this budget to us. We are now we did 2 delegation days, and now this week we have 4 days of budget, to which I'll be sitting at home actually because I have a new puppy. That's a whole different story. But anyway, sitting at my desk, watching 8 hours of budget, which is every single department is delivering their budget presentation to council. Ultimately, the very earliest that we can accept the budget is February 12th. But if we as councillors have amendments, we have until February 6th to actually look at all of the budget documents and submit our own amendments that have to get approved by the mayor. And either the mayor approves them and then council approves them, and then we're all done. So the earliest that this budget can get passed is February 12th. The latest that this budget can get passed is March the 12th, because there will be a back and forth between council and mayor to amend the budget. It is part of how strong mayor powers, we are legislated to do it this way. It is absolutely opaque. It is absolutely not transparent. And I will tell you that we've already received delegations from committee, like citizens, that have said this. So we have asked the mayor to go back and explore what this broad budget process looks like, because it is doesn't make any sense. And I agree with you. It absolutely is like that. Second question was around line by line examination of the challenges and the issues. And in particular, you spoke about the tiny shelters. When this first came out in August, my very first question to staff was, are we buying from a Canadian company? And they said, yes, it is actually a company out of Brantford, and it is Indigenous owned. So when we actually speak to staff about this, they had 3 criteria. Did it fit the price line? The price? Was it able to be delivered on time? And did it fulfill the specifications that we were looking for? This company said yes to all 3, gave us answers to all 3. You being in business, how much more due diligence would you go beyond all of that? If it fulfilled the specifications that you were looking for, fulfilled the timeline and the price that you were looking for, are you going to continue in doing a full history on this business?
Yes.
Especially when we have to try and fulfill a timeline for December 1. So I think that that is where we have lots of learnings. And in fact, council has already asked staff to do a full investigation. I sit on procurement subcommittee. That is what's coming in front of procurement subcommittee. That comes in front of March. So again, this comes back to, I'm not going to be the one to do that work. I trust staff to do that work. So that is where we will be bringing this particular investigation is coming in front of procurement subcommittee in March. I sit on procurement. It is public. It's a subcommittee. All of that you can watch through YouTube. You can watch through. You can sit in the galleries if you wanted to, but it'll be available to the public. Okay.
I guess one question. Do you agree it was a mistake?
Yep. I'm going to be honest with you. I trust staff to do that work. It's not my role as a governor to get into their business like that.
We're taxpayers. And you can do that.
Agreed.
And so, sorry, wants and needs.
So we have,
That will help you.
so staff has done that.
That's one, that's a one. That's the one.
So I think that that depends on your perspective. So here's what I want to say.
Why?
Because it hasn't been started because we are prioritizing capital investments. Agreed. So again, staff have done this. They have pushed off projects that they think could be pushed off too. This is why something like the pipeline trail that was supposed to get redone in 2024 is now being put onto the queue for 2028. Again, I have all of these right here. It is all in this document. So as I am being accountable to you, and we're talking about wants versus needs, the needs at this point are about making sure we have clean drinking water, roads that don't crack the rims of our cars. Again, we are working in order to have this move forward. And that is exactly my issue. Because again, we have been under investing in infrastructure for so long that the amount of dollars that we have is so finite. We have to prioritize capital investments as they come due. Is like $10,000, but anyway, the point though is that public art has been pushed off and pushed off and pushed off for so long. Yeah, it has been pushed off. This gentleman first before you, sir.
People are. You know, issue here is. It's a question of revenue and expenditure. The city is going after vacant unit tax so they can throw some money out of the pile. You guys recently went through this boondoggle with this municipal land transfer tax. Why is he voting it down as council? All it is just looking at sources of revenue. Can you look at, please, expenditures? I don't buy this line. I appreciate your being sensitive, but I buy this line that you can't go back to your staff and say, well, tear it down some more, even though you worked that for 8 months. They are doing taxpayers' work for the taxpayers. They can be offended by saying, go down and chop it some more, taking into account infrastructure as a priority. Like get rid of some of the crap which was evident by this blue dog on Tiffany.
So let me show you this slide. This is the expenditure slide you put in. You can see, oh, I can't, as you can see, it doesn't show up on the TV, but we have tried to cut as much as we can from every single slice of this pie. The biggest challenge is still social services, it's housing, it's transportation, it's transit. Transportation meaning roads and walkways, sidewalks, all of that stuff. Transit being HSR. Another big part of that are places that we do not have any type of say over. We do not affect the education component. We do not affect the police part of this budget. Those are parts of the expenditure that we cannot affect. And in all honesty, there is another slide, there is another picture that I don't have in this presentation, but it shows you how much each part of your property taxes goes to. And almost 40% goes 20% to police, 20% to education. We cannot touch that. Then another portion of it goes to places that we are also flow through dollars for. Social services, Ontario Works, ODSP. We don't take $1 of that. That is a complete flow through from the province down. And then on top of that, we have had downloading from the provincial government that normally they would have taken care of. But now today, us, taxpayers, we have to take care of that. So there is another slide. We'll share that with you. We'll rejig this slide deck and send it out to everyone to show you we are trying really hard on affecting expenditures. Each of those pies are getting smaller and smaller because of exactly as this gentleman is asking me. Look at the expenditures, making sure that we're trying to do it that way. But let me talk about revenues. This slide shows you that almost half of our revenues comes from property taxes. And then we go out and we beg, cajole other orders of government in order to give us additional monies to help offset property taxes. As you can see, other revenues, investment income, development charges, reserves, fees, payment in lieu is literally just over 30%. These two big buckets are the biggest things for us to try and pay for a $2.2 billion business known as the City of Hamilton. The way we go about generating revenue from a municipality is broken, 100% broken, because we are expected to pay for so much of this through our property taxes, but our property taxes are supposed to be paying for roads, water, transit, and unfortunately, those pies get smaller and smaller because of the amount of other stuff we have to pay for. The municipal fiscal framework is broken. And this is exactly why I'm trying my hardest to listen exactly to every single one of you, understand explicitly revenues minus cost equals profit. But if revenues are broken and cost is way too high, what does that equal? Right? So it's something we're trying to do at the Association of Municipalities Ontario. Yeah, but at the same time, we also have programs like the Tenant Defense Fund, the renovictions. We also have this.
Yeah, it's not just duplication.
Because it's broken. And unfortunately, we have to. It actually is, because if you look at Montgomery Park, those 6 tents out there is absolutely part of our responsibility. Absolutely. Sorry, Aaron first. Oh, sorry. The lady right beside you. I actually did the. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, Erin. When you're recommending that we cut libraries and recreation and library staff from soupy programs and all that stuff, unfortunately, it is still a small portion of that social services aspect. Yep, so. Yep. No. Agreed. Agreed. I see John in the back, but I also see this lady and she hasn't spoken yet. So John, I'll go to you second, okay? Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. Mm. Yep. 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 It's just. Whether it's staff that we kind of encourage to make a lot of decisions. So that's one thing. Yep. The other thing is when. Responsibilities to. Yep. And so, especially as elected officials, we need to be able to trust. Okay. And we're going to do this. And there is in this crosswalk to go and they both and it's not so. Thank you. Yep. Yep. So what else?
We'll make a bit of time for that.
Yes.
Before.
We just like some of the decisions we made at home, we never made those kinds of things. I agree. So both sides. So in terms of, I don't know, if you guys can hear me, I think, yeah, okay. The question though is whether people online can hear me, so. Firstly, agreed. We watch very closely how staff do their work, but we also trust that we have excellent staff to do the work. In the instance around Barton Tiffany and the tiny shelters, time was of the essence. So staff said to us, we think we can do this single source. And we said, okay, as long as you have done your research. As a governor, I trust in the team in order to do this work. Agreed. Hence, we are now doing an evaluation of that. That is happening at the subcommittee level. Agreed. Yep. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Okay, so I just want to answer this lady's question first. Sorry, what's your name? Mary. I wanted to answer Mary's question. The question around staff is that we do trust our staff. Yes, we are working on trust and transparency. We do need to build up more of that trust and transparency with you, with everyone that I represent in Ward 4. Agreed. Working on it. And unfortunately, I don't have an excellent answer for that. If I did, I would give it to you, but I don't. Second question, Maple and Ottawa has been the bane of our existence. We have asked for that forever and ever. We have been told delay after delay after delay. We do know that a lot of this now is that it is weather related. It is on its way. I understand that we wanted a light from the Delta East neighborhood. The only challenge is that when experts looked at that section between Ottawa and King and Ottawa and Main, the Ottawa and Maple having a light would have caused significant challenges traffic wise. So again, I'm not a traffic engineer. So I do not have that expertise in order for me to go off and make that decision. So I have to trust in staff to do that. So can I get back to you? Because I know that John has really been waiting. So I'm going to just question. Yeah.
This is.
Okay.
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 Because I think as people look, everyone, you know, we're just. Anyway, we look at. This. That's something I can use. How do you need all? If people want, they can go, they can be friendly, everything for, because you know what? The majority of citizens in here don't need a golf. Sell a property, fix their sewers, fix their roads, because that's where the majority of us have the issues. You know, so it gets back in both days. We just brought up, I brought this up in 2002, meet with the mayor and said, you know what? You're competing against private corporations and businesses you're in. Okay, and the services will be paid for by the citizens on a pay-per-meet basis. I don't need to support something that I'm not using. Get rid of the golf courses and let's get our roads done. Let's get the inch fixed that we use every day. Okay, that's basically, and then that becomes capital expenditure money. Put in there, reduce the budget.
So thank you for that, John. I will tell you that.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Not enough.
Sorry. What is your name? Sorry. Sorry. What was your name? Brian. Oh, I'm so sorry, Brian.
That's what they.
Okay. Fair. Interesting that you say that because Councillor Maureen Wilson and I for Ward 1, we have King's Forest here.
Yeah.
Maureen has Bedeau and Shadoke. And she literally just asked that very same question and got reamed apart in public opinion. Because taxpayers also want their amenities like golf courses. So I hear your perspective. I also have to balance what everybody else is saying. But I also think about it from a business perspective. I can't put all of my eggs in one basket. And so this is where we're thinking about how do we generate revenue that is beyond the property tax base? And one of them is tourism. Bringing in outside dollars to come in. This golf course is a gem. I don't play golf. I don't know anything about golf. I do own several golf clubs, but I do not play this game very well. But I understand implicitly leaning into our assets, leaning into the things that make this a desirable community, but also not putting all of my eggs in just the property tax bucket and trying really hard to diversify our revenue mix. So then that way we can start to build additional revenues beyond property taxes.
Okay.
Brian?
The train over.
Yep.
South golf course. Where are you sitting?
I wish we could put, but we have to put investments in here.
And with the golf country.
Agreed.
What was that?
Hamilton Golf and Country.
Where we go?
Agreed. However,
You
that is exactly what Maureen said. And she got skewered. I understand. Thank you. You know what? I am receptive. I am listening. So I don't mean to come off as being very aggressive. I want to say thank you for sharing. And thank you because I am genuinely listening and I am genuinely trying to build your comments into how we make decisions at council. The challenge too is I am only one vote. So there are 15 other votes on council, sorry. Natasha, and then we gotta move on, because I have a whole, like Pascal's like this, like she's just like, get on with it, you know?
Anyways, I do really appreciate it. Like, really thank you. I know it's difficult. It's unbelievably difficult. You're a star from working on this and being up here and answering our questions and hearing our feedback. So thank you.
Thanks.
Quickly, I was like, thinking, well, how did staff not know to do better? Well, I'm a sought after corporate commercial real estate clerk. I would never work at the city because they don't pay enough. I would rather work in Toronto where I could get 140,000. Sorry, not a slag on your staff, but the city of Hamilton can't afford to pay for the best and the brightest. So if I was doing that sourcing, I would have dug deeper because I'm experienced. I would have really dug into that and your staff should have. I'm sorry, but that's where we're at. We can't afford to pay for the best and brightest here unless we want our budget to go bonkers. But I agree with somebody over here made a comment about, yeah, sometimes it's hard to see city workers. There's 5 of them and I'm thinking, I clean up the park all by myself, man. Like, why does it take 5 of them? I go by myself and pick up garbage and then email the city. I literally, just to get some forestry going, I want to take it upon myself. Took me since May to email the forestry section, since May. Then I followed up, again. And oh, wouldn't you know, at the email address is wrong. Thank you, Pascal. Then I email and then I finally get a response. Then I email again. And again, and again, and again, and again. Like the city staff, God bless them, but there's a lot of, not my job. There's a lot of, oh boy, doo-ba-doo. There's a pile of garbage there beside the street. I was literally here with my garbage truck, but I'm not gonna pick up that until somebody emails. So you gotta staff that email. Then you gotta send out somebody to investigate the dumping. Then you gotta send somebody else. So then that dumping has cost the city $500. And I do hear these guys, like, sometimes I'm like.
Thank you.
Natasha.
Yes.
I just like to say one thing. We voted for you to manage these things. I don't think any of us can micromanage any of these little pieces of the pie. What I think everybody's saying the same thing is we have to get accountability somewhere. That purchase was a mistake.
Yep.
Just say it was a mistake.
Yep.
We messed up.
Yep.
And here's what we're going to do to not do that again.
Yep. And I think that's what.
Yeah.
City staff, there's a lot of good people that have left.
Yep.
And you've got the volumes of what's left over.
Yep.
I worked with this for over 30 years. We've had a lot of good people, but a lot of them left. They retired and said, we've had enough of this crap.
Yep.
But this is what you're stuck with now and in the future.
So this is why we have a new city manager. The challenge with this new city manager is she started January 15th. February 26th, we had a massive cybersecurity hack. that literally crippled us. And yet we still had to go forward and do the work. We're still in that rebuilding phase. There is already a report coming forward, done by our auditor, done by city staff, outlining and facilitating what happened there and in terms of costs. It sucks because we spend a lot of time and a lot of our infrastructure is online. And that cybersecurity crippled us, crippled this organization. So I still stand behind the people that we have, because the people that we have are still excellent, excellent people. And they do the work because they love this city. And they do the work because they support the mandate, which is to support residents. It is not perfect. There is still challenges. Absolutely. There are still a lot of challenges with responsibility, with responsiveness, with answering emails. But all I can say is that this council, myself, we still stand behind our staff because they are who they are, because they love the city. They are also taxpayers and they want to see the city grow. Again, all of that is to say, it is a work in progress and we are trying to get there. So let me continue on. Let me just rip through the rest of these slides because, yeah, it's at 8:10. So I just want to rip through these slides and then we'll finish up. Hopefully you guys will eat the cookies and the Roma pizza because I don't want to take it home. And then we'll mix, mingle, and chat, okay? So going through revenues, we have capital projects that are coming up. These ones have been left over from years and years and years of decline and work. So the fact is they are finally coming up in the engineering services queue. Main Street, so that is for LRT enablement. We have the bridge at Kenilworth Avenue. That's at Nikola Tesla. It's falling apart. We need to fix that bridge. Leaside Park, so that's right in the north end, right against the QEW. We have Packwood Arena. That's the Parkdale Arena. The roof needs to get replaced. So that's happening. Main and Parkdale, we have a traffic signal that's getting rehabilitated. We have all of our water fountains that are getting done too, because I don't know if you've been by AM Cunningham and that water fountain is rusted to the nth degree. I'm a little worried for anybody drinking out of that water fountain. So thankfully we're gonna get some of those done. Other bridges, and we also have a paramedic reporting station. So these are some of the big ones. And then other cybersecurity enablement. So trying to get us back to even better and serving our residents better. Housing and homelessness. Part of what we have funded is the Tenant Defense Fund. And I understand that you're wondering what is the difference. The challenge though, the existing system is still broken and we still have a lot of people that are trying to stay in their homes. Because at the end of the day, we want people to stay in their homes despite affordability, despite that vulnerability. We want people to be in their homes and not be homeless. So this is part of those diversion opportunities to make sure that we keep people housed. Winter response strategy. So we have warming centers, we have additional shelter beds. We have just invested 192 shelter beds. Those are all coming online. And Pascal's put a bunch of different organizations on here. So we'll send these slides out to you. Encampments. So the encampment protocol is meant to be rescinded. What that means is that staff will come back with a protocol response. And ultimately, we will have encampments removed from our parks. But the way we're going to do that, there is a process that will be followed. Because we have recently put a significant amount of investments into shelter services, emergency services, and we're trying to funnel a lot more money into affordable housing, so then that way those nonprofit providers can actually build their housing faster. It's a work in progress. We're not gonna see it until the end of February, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So there was also a lot of concern about hats in the Brampton Rennie neighborhood. That was unfortunately not supposed to happen. It was put forward by one of the other counselors that did not have the right information, and in all honesty, didn't consult me to get that information. As a counselor, how do you fire a counselor? Yeah, I know, they get reelected. We're like, okay. That's how you guys fire me, is you don't vote for me, so I'm sorry. That's, at this point, it is coming up on GIC, which is on Wednesday. I will be registering myself as a speaker and letting them know, all of committee, that that site has been deemed not compatible. And Councillor McMeekin, who put forward the motion, is going to strike that from the motion. That's down by Woodward. Yeah, it's right across from Globe Park, like with the dog park. It's like right in that neighborhood. Compost, yeah. Yeah. So that site is not compatible. Yeah, I really, really wish that he had spoken to me before and I could have educated him on that. And it unfortunately happened. It is going to get remedied later on. Sorry? Ward 15, Flamborough. He said that he would love to, he had actually offered. So second, 2, 3, and 4 is because we also have a lot of services. So we have access to services, we also have access to transit. So many times those outlying rural areas are discounted because you need a car to get out there. And so when you are in an encampment, you want access to services and access to transit, and that is where Ward 4 is rich for that. That is 100% exactly the answer. So I was just at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, so ROMA. It is a big conference where all of the rural communities hang out and they bring up all of these challenges. And as an urban counselor, that's I'm interested in finding out more about rural and understanding rural. One of the interesting tidbits that came out of that is rural homelessness is rising at 154% faster than urban municipalities. It's because we're pretty much saturated, and now homelessness is affecting other communities outside of just Hamilton. It is across the country. It is not just a Hamilton thing. It is across the country. Homelessness and affordability is absolutely the single biggest social challenge of this term. Full stop. Even in rural communities, they are also suffering from this. So the challenge now is that urban and us as Hamiltonians, we're left holding the bag because we have not received adequate funding from the province and from the feds in order for this to be a whole of community solution. 22 million. So that money. And we've been talking a lot about that. But as well, we have also significant. Okay. Oh my God, I keep turning this thing on. Okay. So we have been absolutely accountability and efficiency is absolutely at the core of everything we've talked about tonight. Absolutely everything. But we're also left with cuts to social funding, cuts to homelessness supports, and a lot of that is because it ends up, we want to make sure that our municipality doesn't have people dying on the streets. So when it comes to orders of magnitude of how much Hamiltonians, especially Ward 4 residents, are paying, it is absolutely unbalanced and it's absolutely unequal. So this is why we have to talk about we have to talk about advocacy at other levels of government. And this is where this is where we're spending the time to also say to the province, we need your help. We need you to come back here. And we need you to spend this money and support municipalities who are the closest to the residents. So I could go line by line and tell you exactly how we're spending that money. But we also have a website. It's called hamilton.ca/ and it's homelessness. So there is a lot of information on the hamilton.ca website. If you are interested in that, we can also send that out. We'll add a little more information to this slide deck to do that. Yes.
So. Going towards homelessness.
Mhm.
And I understand.
Mhm.
What I propose, since it's an idea, is that why not just deal with the market with the animals? Have the, like the people are really having the shapes and their intents. And I'm sorry, works or the SB.
Mhm.
So they have to pay, they get paid now for housing. So let them pay that amount
Mhm.
for you have a lot of empty apartments.
Mhm.
Have them go into that empty apartment and get the rest subsidized. It would be cheaper in the long run to subsidize those apartments than to keep looking after tents, homelessness, all these structures. Why not just use the existing rentals like I have supports around them, like in the ground, have them explode with their supports and let them run that apartment. You've already got apartments in place. Why build things? You don't need to. You need to just subsidize this all the way across.
So that's something called basic income.
They need labor.
Yeah.
So my sister actually participated. My sister involved in this and that was subsidized. She had a basement apartment. And she had a guy who was a drug addict. Probably drug addict. He was living under the bridge there in Toronto. So it worked really well for a while until he started selling and doing drugs again. These people need more than just that.
I said sports.
I know, but what do you mean by supports? Like, is he gonna have somebody live there with him? Is he gonna have he had a nurse come by.
No,
He had a social
you have a
worker.
contract, for instance, with Endwell. When you enter an Endwell building, because I have a son who lives in Endwell, and you sign a contract with them, that you have to have, the apartment has to be, examined every week when they first get there.
But that's like every lease. A lease is a
but
contract. You
this
write
is
all that stuff into a
much
lease. So
more
there's something
intensive.
called quiet enjoyment.
No, they
But I
have
mean,
support.
that's where you need a supportive housing.
Okay.
Because it's
So-
so difficult to just.
Okay. Thank you. The challenge though is that, and I wish I had the numbers because I know Indwell has actually told me the numbers. And I think it was like $171 per day per person or something like that. It was depending on their level of need was different price tags for what they needed. In terms of City Housing Hamilton, we're down to like 3% vacancy, which is like 200 some odd units that are still needing to be turned over. And a lot of those are really, really bad, like terribly bad. So they take longer, but they have been cycling through all of those City Housing Hamilton units. So it's an excellent thought process. I think that it's warrants a longer conversation. Because in terms of how, yeah, like absolutely, like I think that a portion of it is also Ontario Works and ODSP. They have not raised their income supports in, oh my God, it's like $733 for OW. Like, who can live on $733 all in and try and have your housing plus your food plus all of the $733 is ridiculous. Hence the reason why we also need to appeal to other orders of government to talk about it from an income supports level, blah, 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 blah. So I feel like we would have great coffee conversations. Okay, so can I just rip through this? Cause like people are telling me that I gotta like wrap this up, get this out of here. Yes. It's called social housing from federal governments. And unfortunately, we have not had that since the late 70s. So it is, yeah, they pay high taxes, but they take care of their people. Yep. They pay high taxes, but they support their people. So that I think is also yet another coffee conversation that we should have. Coming up. Okay, and potentially a federal election, but yay. Okay, so let me rip through this very, very fast. Development projects. We have 1284, this is Delta Secondary. It's kind of stalled, but it looks pretty. So it went through LT, it's supposedly ready to go, but New Horizon said that they were going to pause on this until the market gets better. So it's still kind of sitting there the way that it is. So this is an example of for-profit market housing that is not building housing, stalling on potentially, I know, if Indwell got it, but Indwell couldn't afford the price tag. So this is 975 units that could be on the marketplace by as soon as next year. It is not because of the marketplace. So this is yet another market housing that has not put pricing into the market. No, it's not. It's market housing. Also owned by New Horizon, also stalled. That's 1,100 units that is not coming onto the marketplace, also stalled. I think there's a slide on that. This one is at the Plates and Traffic Circle. This is City Housing Hamilton. There are 2 buildings. It's awesome because they're finally coming up. They were supposed to have people moving in by November, but I think it's been stalled and delayed a little bit, but people will be moving in. It is geared towards women and families. That is 82 units any moment now coming online, affordable housing. Roxborough Park is done in multiple phases. You guys would have seen the City Housing Hamilton one, that's the 10-story building. There are now 4 rental complexes going up behind it. And, oh, you didn't do that. And the last bit is they were supposed to do more condos and townhouses, but now they're doing maisonettes. So they were supposed to be at 1244 in terms of units. It has now been reduced to 759, again, because of the market. This is what that carriage gate tells us. So they are changing what kinds of buildings are going in there. Last, we have a brand new Ward 4 trustee. So her name is Abby Zately. She is really awesome.
She wrote us a speech.
Oh, she wrote us a speech. She was supposed to be here tonight, but because tonight she's actually being actually inundated into the school board, so we just couldn't make the timing work. Abby says, hello, Ward 4. I'm sad to miss my first town hall as your new HWDSB trustee tonight. However, I am attending my swearing in ceremony at the Education Center and participating in my first official board meeting. I am incredibly excited and honored to be working alongside fellow trustees and community members to achieve the best outcomes for education for our children. Since being elected a few weeks back, I've been very busy getting into the role. I've had the privilege of visiting 3 different schools, Cunningham, Ballard, and Churchill, attending school council and home and school meetings at Cunningham, Rosedale, and Queen Mary, participating as an observer in board and committee meetings, joining the public education symposium where I learned from trustees across Ontario, meeting with board staff to better understand their roles and how they support our schools, assisting community members like yourselves in navigating challenging situations at the school level. I have lots more in the works and look forward to connecting with you all out in the community. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to attending the next town hall. So Abby A simply at wsb.on.ca, and I think this is 2. There's a dot there, but it's 289 number. So if you're interested in connecting with the Ward 4 trustee, that's her contact information. Moving on, there is a provincial election being called, probably on Wednesday. And just wanted to let you know that our very own Pascal will be taking some time off. She'll be running in this provincial election. If you want to speak to her, that's Pascal. So you guys can talk to her after we finish the slide. Okay. And then in terms of AMO, so I sit on the board of Association of Municipalities Ontario. They're trying to do a lot of get out the vote. So try to affect change and also get people really interested in some of the biggest challenges. Housing homelessness, municipal financial framework, ensuring that we have investment in infrastructure. So there's a lot of work being done at all levels around this provincial election. In terms of what's coming up, we have several events that are coming up. Again, when you guys sign in, we'll make sure that we send this to you so that way you guys can see it. But there is a bunch of work at the Seaman Technology Museum. We also have Day of Remembrance. So that's actually Wednesday. Pascal will be actually giving us a talk at that. The Day of Remembrance for the Quebec mosque attack and action against Islamophobia. Across the city, we have Winterfest. We also have the Binnigan Wellbeing Center is opening, and that is on February 5th. So that's down by the McQueston neighborhood where the McQueston Urban Farm is, and that's where that is. Moving on, we do have a family day free skate. So if you guys want to come out to Rosedale or Parkdale, we'll be hosting free skating for everyone. And the Women of Distinction, Pascal has also been nominated as a YWCA Women of Distinction, so we're very proud of her in our office. Moving on, there's a lot of different events. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. Youth and Elders Conference, and questions. Yes, sir. Oh. Yep.
So why are they doing this stuff?
Trust me, we are. Absolutely, we are. Each of those actually comes with a bundle of different things, like the cost of one. I don't remember the cost of it, but I recall that there were logistical issues with actually acquiring every bundle of them, because not only do you have the actual red light camera infrastructure, but you also need to have it set up through the provincial offenses like office. Agreed. We have asked that question. Absolutely. Because I hear from Ward 4 residents about speeding all the time. And those are absolutely really great interventions, also revenue generation. I will get back to you about the nitty-gritty details of it, but it is something we bring up often. You know what else I also bring up? Crazy amounts of truckers that stop on Parkdale just to run inside and block lanes so they can go and get a coffee. There's issues there. People are blocking actual Parkdale. It's still an issue. It's still an issue. So anyway, yes. Excellent. Yes, Natasha.
This isn't really a moneymaker, but sort of what I've noticed is the city doesn't make it easy for people to get in and volunteer or create community. Every time I'm trying to do something, I'm like, oh, it's so hard. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to get, our park there beside the townhomes? I'm like, hey, if we can do these pollinator gardens, then adults will come out, adults will be in the park, that'll create safety. Well, that'll be great. But no, you have to have a container.
Yep.
Who's gonna water those? I'm like, forget it.
Yep.
Who's gonna pay for that? I wanted to do an ice rink. Holy smokes, how expensive on my dime. And then I see Victoria Gardens, they can just spray it onto a baseball diamond, but no, we have to have specific stuff. I'm like, okay, ice rink out. And then the year before I wanted to do it, and the city guy's like, well, the lights burned out. I guess I should fix that. Right?
Yes.
So I'm like, if we have more community involvement,
Yes.
that takes care of security. That takes care of a lot of loneliness, which is a problem. We're all looking out for each other. These things kind of cut costs to the city. And to me, those are low cost things. We would be doing all the work.
Yep. Yes. I don't know. That was something early on in our office. We really wanted to create a bit of a toolkit or a handbook to try and get community members to do those things. And the more we dig into it, there's a fear from staff because it all of a sudden elevates service levels, even though it's not done by staff, it's done by community. But if the community all of a sudden just stops, there's still an expectation for that pollinator garden to continue to get watered.
People just hear community keeps going and it provides neighborhoods.
Agreed.
It's really.
Yeah. Agreed. Yes. 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 Yes, sir.
You mentioned working. Homeless issue.
Mhm.
My question is, because of the way you phrased it, are you guys confident the town is planning on mysterious staffing, or is there any ideas, proposals from our chosen counselors to these mysterious secret staff on what should happen? Who runs the session? Based on what you said, who runs the show?
A little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
Yeah, but we voted for you, not for the other.
So, yes, you voted for me. And what we do is we provide direction and we provide a bit of an oversight or framework in terms of what we want to happen. Ultimately, the actual step by step is delegated to staff. So in the very first day that I joined council, we were sat down in an orientation session where we spoke about which lane do we swim in. As a governor, I provide overarching sort of direction, but then staff provide the actual framework and the actual action plan. We do, we also send it back if we're not happy with it. So take, for example, the renovation and licensing bylaw, so the renovictions bylaw was actually sent back 2 or 3 times. The other one is the adequate heat bylaw, which is, again, has been sent back twice. So that's the thing, is that when we as governors provide that larger overarching directive and oversight, but ultimately staff are the ones that actually come up with the action plan and the actual implementation.
So is there a way for anybody here to have some input with staff? Because we'd like to input with you, but it ain't gonna go anywhere. Why can't we input with them?
So you can always delegate in front of council and in front of committee. You can always
share that with me that I can share with staff. You can also go directly, so just as you saw here, like the vacant unit, we brought the staff people that are managing and actually rolling out that vacant unit. Director Clayton Pereira. So many times you can always reach out to them directly, and they gave you their contact information, the vacant unit tax at hamilton.ca, for you to contact them directly. So if you do want to talk to staff directly, we can always facilitate that introduction. Yes, sir.
There 3 issues.
Yep.
First, January.
Yep.
Sidewalks. Joe. And.
Yep.
2 items, Jeff. Some.
Mm-hmm.
We had the grants. If you have a Vincent and. So it brings on the rest. And gets and breathe and all that, all look into it, but it's every year. And then you send up this thing to us. It's really wrong. This is not, no, very good. It sends this thing with tips. Waste of money. Anybody that owns a dog knows you don't want the dog from the dog rights. Waste of money, efficiencies. Now, the third thing is, we've had a lot of things put in parks, from Road Park, at a cost of, Sam said, $45,000. Ours is maybe the one at the old park has froze. Because the city leaves them on. But we've never had ours to come on. Ever since, never. $45,000 of efficiency wasted.
Okay.
I don't see why we get pissed off about taxes going up.
I hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
And actually, so Pascal and I were literally on a phone call with the sidewalk guys. So Pascal, did you take note of that so we can share that with the sidewalk guys? Wrap up. We have to wrap up. Okay. So, thank you. I appreciate you spending the time with me today. Thank you so much. Okay, have a great rest of your night.